I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future, and instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be. Seeker. The first level of the Billionaire Code is Seeker, and I want to explain it to you in detail on this podcast. And over the next 9 podcasts, including this one, I want to go through each level of the Billionaire Code with you. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to be able to, 1, identify what level you're in, 1 through 9, and understand where you are. You will know what you should be focused on in that level, like where you should be putting your time and attention to get the most momentum. And you will understand if there's anything you've missed in previous levels, because here's how the Billionaire Code works. At each new level, what you did to get you into that level will kill you if it's your singular focus moving forward. However, you have to replace it with some type of a process, some type of a system, some type of efficiency so that you can continue to go up the Billionaire Code. Because what happens as we grow as entrepreneurs, we don't grow out of responsibility. We grow into higher levels of responsibility. So we are always adding more with each new level of success that we have. You look at the entry-level entrepreneur, and there's not a lot of responsibility there. If they might be responsible for themselves or for their family, there's not a lot for them to worry about, be concerned with. You look at Dave Liniger, my friend who recently retired from Remax as the CEO and chairman, and you have 95,000 people around the world carrying your business card. That is a tremendous amount of responsibility. So you don't shed responsibility as you go along, you add more. And so at each new level, as we go through these, I want you to identify if you've missed anything in a level previous to yours, because it may be holding you back where you are now. So let's start with the first level, Seeker. Now, before you're a seeker, you're in this place I call the crowd. That vast mass of humanity out there that isn't trying to change everything, isn't trying to light the world on fire, make their dent in the universe. They're not entrepreneurial personality types. They're caretakers, they're communicators, they're coordinators. They're the rest of the world out there that clings to average and strives desperately to keep the status quo alive. They want to just stay the same. And what happens is an entrepreneur, an entrepreneurial personality type like us says, wait, this isn't good enough for me. I want more. I want to do more. The path that everybody else is talking about just doesn't make sense to me. I want to do something different. I want to do something unique. I want to do something for myself. And they become a seeker, the first level of the Billionaire Code. When you're a seeker, the primary focus that you have should be to understand yourself, understand what you want to do. Because as a seeker, you're not making a lot of money when you first start out. And here's the challenge. Seekers come into the market and they try and do everything at once. You know, when you're a seeker, do you have a team? No, you don't have a team. The movement that you've started as a business, like you have to identify the movement you want to start. The biggest need is, and this is one that so many seekers miss. See, when you leave the crowd and become an entrepreneur, the biggest need you have is the keystone habits, routine, daily planning, setting outcomes, personal care. I'll come back to that in a second. To graduate from seeker, you understand who it is that you want to serve. Who do you want to work with? Now, just to give you an idea of some numbers, so I kind of classify seeker businesses as anyone from zero to $40,000, because there's a lot of seeker businesses where people make some money, or they bring in some, but they don't really have a clear avatar. They're not really servicing a clear client. Like a lot of times you see this with consultants. I call them, it's like the deal of the day consultants. They're doing one thing for one person, one thing for another person. They're not making a lot of money. They don't have a business that could really scale or grow because they have to be there because the avatar is not consistent. Like that's where seekers are most of the time. And we all have a little bit of seeker in us. In the United States, $0 to $40,000, there are 16 million out of 29 million businesses in the United States are in that 0 to 40,000. And that's the registered businesses, not all the other people who want to start a business or want to become entrepreneurs or want to do something different. And when you look at a seeker, like this is the key here is you understanding who you are and what you want to do. Like what is going to get you excited to get out of bed every morning? Because starting a business is one of the hardest things in the world to do. And it's near impossible to do just to make a living. Because if you're doing it just to make a living, you end up with businesses that are traps that look a lot like jobs. Like the guy who does our lawn, he's got a decent business. Him and his brother, they do our lawn every week, but it's him and his brother. They're doing the lawn, and the business is a trap. They're not excited about it. They're not lit up by it. They just come and do lawns. And so the first step for me, for a seeker, if we're going to go through the Billionaire Code, the way I'm going to describe it to you is in the ideal way. The best way to get through all 9 of these levels. And again, if you're above the 0 to 40,000, you should start checking in your head right now if you've done the following so you can get really clear, because the fallback question that we ask when we are at the seeker level or in the seeker mentality is, how do I stop pressure and noise? Because at the seeker level, it's like, how do I make the pain go away? And so how do we do that? You identify the movement that you want to have. You identify who it is you want to serve at Seeker. See, far too many people try and figure out what product they're going to have. You should identify what population you serve, what people you're going to help, what group you're creating a product for, because then it'll actually land and you'll sell something. Whenever somebody tells me they want to create a mass market product right out of the gate, I think, I feel terrible for them. There are stories of those products becoming successful, but they are few and far between. And when you dig under the hood of a lot of mass market products becoming successful overnight, what you find is someone was selling a niche market for a long time and got enough attention to go mass market overnight. And so identify that group. Who is it? Who are you going to serve? And the biggest need you have is keystone habits, routine, daily planning, setting outcomes, personal care. Like, here's why it's so important at Seeker to have habits and routine and planning and setting outcomes, because you can seek forever. Entrepreneurs can become, like I know people right now who have been in Seeker mode for years. I know people right now who have $1 million businesses. They're doctors, they're attorneys, they're in a profession that they want to do something else in. And so they are closet seekers who, when I say 0 to 40,000, like think about that. Are you making that much money in what you want to be doing? Because I guarantee you there's a lot of, like you listening right now, you might be a closet seeker. You're doing one thing with your life, but what you really want to be doing is something else. So the key is, whether you're a seeker going around for the first time, whether you're somebody who already has a business, you want to do something else, like if you're in the seeker mode at all, go look at your habits. Do you have a morning routine? Do you have an evening routine? Are you doing daily planning? Are you planning forward? Are you using a forward planning system like the one we have in our Momentum Planner? Because if you're using a forward planning system, you have clarity as to what you're really doing. Because when you're in seeker mode, you can stay in seeker mode indefinitely. You can stay in the place where you just keep looking for what the opportunity is going to be. And if you have forward planning, if you're setting outcomes, if you're taking care of yourself, you're a lot less likely to get stuck in seeker mode. And then to graduate from seeker, you understand who you want to serve. Who is that population? And just so you know, like you can do this right now. You can just decide who that niche market is. You can decide who that avatar is. Who are you going to help? And I want you to think about who you're going to help in not like, because here's what happens. I'll ask entrepreneurs, who do you want to work with? And they'll say, oh, well, I want to work with entrepreneurs. Well, guys, I did that for a few years. I had this content called the entrepreneurial personality type, and it was aimed at entrepreneurs in general. And even though I had a huge following and got on some of the most important stages in the world and spoke in front of tens of thousands of, possibly hundreds of thousands of people, we had a hard time being successful with anything because we didn't have clarity around what we were doing for that entrepreneurial personality type. There wasn't clarity around who we were serving. It wasn't clear. We weren't solving a pain for anyone. We were just telling them more about themselves. And then in the past year, we've started talking directly to, almost exclusively, and soon to be exclusively for a while at least, entrepreneurs who are building teams at any level. You know, I have a high-end mastermind that's $1 million plus. We're now adding levels so that even entrepreneurs who are just starting to build teams can get in. If you go to billionairecode.com, you can answer a few questions and you'll get on the list for when that product comes out so we can show you how to rapidly scale a team and rapidly move up. But the reason we're doing this is because we are talking directly to our avatar, the person that we want to serve. And what I realized was you have to have a niche. So the way that you graduate from Seeker, the way that you get past this, you fulfill first, you get the biggest needs in place, your keystone habits, your routine, your daily planning, your forward planning, your outcomes, your personal care, understanding that you're actually making progress. Then you get really clear on who it is you work with. And so for me, for the past year, I've talked to nothing but $1 million plus entrepreneurs. We're just expanding it to entrepreneurs building teams. And when you look at $1 million plus entrepreneurs, I wasn't just talking to $1 million plus entrepreneurs. I was talking to $1 million plus entrepreneurs who had high margins, who were in fast growth companies, who have created far more opportunity than they can take advantage of. Because if somebody meets those 4 requirements, I can show someone to go from 7 to 8 figures faster than anyone on the planet. And I started doing this in April of last year, and I can now show you I'm coaching people to do this faster than anyone on the planet. The last week at ClickFunnels, there was a bunch of speakers who were invited on stage to share their growth, their stories, and 4 of the speakers at ClickFunnels were our clients. And Alex and Layla Hormozi, who got into Russell's 2 Comma Club X, which is $10 million or more, not his 2 Comma Club, but his 2 Comma Club, the 8-figure award. Alex and Layla got that, and they built an 8-figure company in 10 months. It's like a magic trick. But the reason that it's working is, and it's not, believe me, I want to be very careful that I do not take credit for Alex and Layla's success. Alex is one of the most brilliant marketers I've ever met in my entire career, and Layla is a visionary operator that is so intense. She knows how to hire people around her. She's building a structure. Like, their company is incredible. But when you look at why it's so incredible and why they're growing so well. First, they're talking directly to the gym owner who is going out of business. Like, they have their avatar nailed down, and they've got systems and structure to grow their business that we're providing for them. And so here's what happened. As soon as I figured out, like, hey, where I can have the biggest effect is $1 million business owners, then we started signing them up without even really trying. Like, we've tried, but we haven't had a sales page of any kind or anything that shares like who we are or what we do in forever. We just got our website updated so it has some of this information, but we have 30 people in our high-end mastermind, or 30 companies, because we're speaking directly to an avatar. So for years, we spent tens of thousands of dollars on marketing and sold nothing. And for the last year, we've spent nothing, and we've had 30 of our perfect avatar come in. It's because I started talking directly to them. So to graduate from Seeker, you speak directly, you figure out who you want to serve, and you start talking to them and only them. Because the way you really accelerate yourself out of Seeker is to get on the phone with a bunch of people who are your target avatar and interview them. When I released our high-end mastermind, I talked to over 120 entrepreneurs who were building teams. And the reason that I talked to them about building teams, and I talked to so many of them, is I wanted to hear what was going on. I wanted to understand what was going on. The first 30 interviews I had, I didn't even understand what our product could possibly be. I just knew I wanted to serve that client. And the next 30, I started figuring out what the product could look like. And the next 30, I started sharing with them what it was. And the next 30, I started telling them about it and figuring out like what they wanted, and ask questions. When you talk to someone who is your target avatar, who you think can benefit from the pain you solve, the problem you have a solution for, ask them, how much are you spending on that problem now? And have you been coached? Have you tried an information product? How did it work for you? Find out what their buying habits are, because if you're one of those entrepreneurs who finds a market where everyone knows they have a problem, but nobody spends any money on it, you got to be really careful. And if you haven't talked to 20, 30, 40, 100 of your avatar, I want you to understand something. You can save a lot of time and a lot of pain and a lot of anguish by dropping everything and starting to get on the phone and talk to the people you're trying to sell. And I realize there's all types of strategies these days where you use surveys and forms and ask campaigns, and all of those are good for preliminary research. But if you're really going to go out and serve an avatar, if you want to get out of seeker mode permanently, if you want to understand who you're selling better than anyone on the planet, it's not that hard. Figure out who it is, find your target avatar, get really clear on who they are, and go talk to somewhere between 40 and 150 of them and ask them about the problem you solve, and you will find that you'll know more about that group of people than just about anyone. And so if you're in Seeker on the Billionaire Code, that's how you get out. And if you're at any level over $40,000 in income, but you're struggling in any way to continue to increase your income, ask yourself, have you done what you need to do at Seeker? Best case scenario. Remember this, I'm telling you to go through this optimized. So at Seeker, your focus is your self-identity. You put in the keystone habits, the routine, the daily planning, the forward planning, having clear outcomes, personal care, measurement, all the things that you should have, all the things we have in our Momentum Masterclass. If you go to momentummasterclass.com, it basically helps you get out of Seeker and Starter, which is the next level I'll share with you in the next podcast, or maybe the one after that. I might do informational in between and then another level of the Billionaire Code. But the last thing you do to graduate Seeker is you understand who you want to serve. And so if you haven't done this at the level of clarity I just described, then this could be a hidden key to unlocking massive potential in your business, because there are a lot of businesses where, due to somebody's personality or due to how hard an entrepreneur pushes or due to how good the product is, that grow without a target avatar. In fact, without clarity around who that market is, who that avatar is. And what I've found is when we go into those businesses, now we have a history to look at who is really showing up. You'll get a level of clarity about exactly who that is, and then you can turn around and talk to exactly that person. So if you're an existing business, look at who your clients are and go start interviewing, not your clients, but people who are like your clients before they became your clients. And you will find that you enhance your message, you enhance your service, you enhance your deliverables. It will change your business. And so Seeker is that first level on the Billionaire Code. And you know, there's some avatars around Seekers. So I just want you to know, like, one of the interesting thing about Seekers, and I call them the brilliant seeker, is that there's a lot of people who are in this category who tend to know everything. Like when you go to an event, the person who's answering all the questions, the person who has ideas about everything, oftentimes it's the seeker who's just getting started. And so I bring this up because my suggestion is, if you're a seeker, that you go to those events, and here's the seekers that get the most attention, the seekers that get the most support, the seekers who speakers and who content providers and people end up spending like an extraordinary amount of time with, are the ones who are the most present, the most quiet, the most humble, the ones who don't act like they know everything, the ones who are super transparent about where they are, the ones who are not trying to solve everyone else's problems, because that type of seeker is tough. It's tough for me as a speaker. It's tough for people in the room. It's difficult. Like the rest of the room often figures out that the person really doesn't have a lot going on, but they have advice for everyone. So if you're in this place, I just want you to know that it's a natural tendency of seekers to overcompensate for where they are by trying to help everyone in the room. And it will make you one of the most difficult seekers to help. And when you're in seeker mode, you need help. And I'll confess that in the past few years, when I've gone to events and we didn't have a lot going on in the business, I was doing a lot of private consulting, but we weren't really getting the right level of attention and what we wanted, that I found myself even answering too much or being, having an idea for everyone instead of listening and absorbing. I think it's just something natural that happens to us when we get into seeker mode. We want to show an offsetting strength for this feeling of inadequacy because we don't have what we really want to have going on. And every seeker feels the same. We all fall back to that question. How do I stop pressure and noise? So that's seeker. And in the next podcast, I'll share with you Starter, the next level of the Billionaire Code. And for anyone for you, if you heard anything that you're not doing already, that you don't have in your life, that you don't have good foundational processes around, that you don't have a very high level of clarity around, again, this could be the hidden key to unlocking massive potential in your business that's sitting there for you right now. Because as we go through these levels of the Billionaire Code, at each new level, if you go shore up, put process in place, make sure you're covered for everything that we go through, you're going to see your company in a totally unique and different way. And I look forward to sharing Starter with you in the next podcast or maybe the one after that. And if you haven't yet, go to the URL that I mentioned earlier, billionairecode.com. It's billionairecode.com. And if you answer a few questions for us, we will show you where you are in the Billionaire Code. You'll actually get a preview ebook, so you have all of the levels. So as I go through them on the podcast, you can follow along. And, I just shared this at Funnel Hacking Live, and the comment I heard most often was you're the most genuine speaker that was at the event or that I've seen, or that, like, people talk about that a lot. I think it's because I don't wear a lot of nice clothes, and I'm myself no matter where I am. But the second comment that I got most often was, I can't believe how much clarity I have, or something that is a subset of that comment. Like, I can't believe how much clarity, or now I know where I am, or now I know exactly what to do, or now I can go back and, put more energy into what I wanted to do. Or I got comments like, now I know exactly why I've been stuck for the past 8 months. Like, you saved me. And it's all from the content in the Billionaire Code, because it is the true path to entrepreneurial success for any of us, including me. It's like gravity. You can't fight the code. You need to know the code. So go to billionairecode.com and check it out.